What's up YouTube? Keith Lee isn't just a former NXT North American, WWN, and PWG World Champion, but he also had the biggest win of his career last Sunday. He got his old chunks back. Also, he beat the 13-time WWE Champion Randy Orton clean. I'm telling y'all, I love Keith Lee. I know a lot of other people can say the same thing. He's a future world champion. The transition he's had from the independent scene to NXT and that transition from that to the main roster has been flawless. But what makes Keith so amazing is his elegance on a microphone and his ability to take everyone's attention on what he's doing and what he says in the ring. And he might just be the best big man in recent history. Thank you to these people who commented on the last video.
We going up like 1,000. I'm a flex just like a MuscleManMalcolm.
And if you want to be shouted out in the next video, all you have to do in comments down below is continue to put the comment, bask in his glory. Because these are 10 Keith Lee matches you need to watch. Number 10, Keith Lee versus Mia Yim, Beyond Wrestling. Wrestling Girlfriend might sound like your weird sick fantasy if your name is like, I don't know, like Johnny or something. You live in your mother's basement. But this was Lee's final independent appearance before showing up at TakeOver. From my knowledge at least, Keith has only had 2 different intergender matches, one against Mia and one against Kimberly. But for this one, he definitely had his work cut out for Yim. Like a typical Lee match, it had very David versus Goliath aspects, but if David was really good at arm bars and he called himself the head baddie in charge. Even with the crowd knowing this was Lee's final match on the independent scene, they were like 90% on Mia's side the entire time. Really morphed him throughout the match from the loving boyfriend that's just trying to have a wonderful match to like a now more of a, how do you say, that noise, attitude adjustment, and continue to suplex and big forearms the entire time. Also, if those two ever have kids, they're gonna be very concerned on like, why did their mother powerbomb their dad with a crowd of people cheering that has over 500,000 views on YouTube? Or they'll think it's really cool, either way. Number 9, Keith Lee versus Matt Riddle, Evolve 94. At the time, this is Lee's biggest championship win during his wrestling career, as he defeated Matt Riddle for the WWE Championship at Evolve 94. The WWE title is the World Championship of the WWE Live, which is the governing body for multiple promotions like Evolve Wrestling, DG USA, Shine, and various other promotions under its banner. Much like an NWA World title that goes between each territories and kind of defends itself there and whatnot, that was the WWE Championship. Lee and Riddle put on a technical clinic, a very Riddle style match, but also highlight the fact that Keith can adapt to any wrestler that he faces. The full match is actually on the WWE Network, that's why I can't really show too much of what happened. As most of the Evolve library is now on the WWE Network, if you go to the best of Keith Lee and Evolve, it's gonna be up there, so check it out. Number 8, Keith Lee and Shane Taylor versus War Machine, ROH Survival of the Fittest, 2016. ROH is the sole reason I know who Keith Lee is. I mean, I just saw these 2 massive black dudes just walk out there and just beat the hell out of people. You're big. Like 2 walking fridges. I can safely say they were the biggest tag team in Ring of Honor, and for the longest I also didn't know their tag team names, so I called them Big Beefy Boys. Turns out they're actually called Pretty Boy Killers. But in a no rules match, I mean, these giant tag teams just went at it and at it. Every time any combination of that tag team decided to, oh, let's run each other to the barricade, I was more concerned for the grandmas sitting ringside during that moment than I am for grandmas during the, you know, global pandemic. Lee's ROH career really isn't that talked about because, well, he made his name in PWG and Evolve, honestly, but this is the place he started to make his name in a non-WWE scene. All 4 of these men's styles really put some respect of what we used to watch back in the day, seeing all these big guys do nothing but big boots and choke slams. If you had put these 4 men in the 80s back when big men were just doing big boots and choke slams, people would have been absolutely shocked and they would have drawn millions of dollars because these guys are all super athletic, super talented, and Keith Lee by far would have fit so well in that 80s category that he'd be a millionaire by 32. Number 7, Keith Lee versus Ricochet, WCPW World Cup. Limitless means adaptable, and when you have the most flippy man in pro wrestling, it's time to adapt. So it's time for the flips. During WCPW's World Cup event, they managed to have classics throughout the entire tournament, and this was by far one of those. The most athletic man in wrestling versus the biggest athletic man in wrestling. Ricochet makes anything look good. I think we all can just agree on that. Here's Ricochet next to my math grade, a broken Cybertruck, and Gabby Hanna singing. But credit to Ricochet, he didn't just make Lee look like a dominant force in the ring, but also like his little lucha brother, because they were doing flippy floppy floop. Lee's also no slouch in the selling department because he made Ricochet look so good at moments during this match. He made some of those flips look deadly. Number 6, Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT Survivor Series 2019. This obviously isn't a singles match for him, but this was a career maker that would eventually make his main roster career. Coming off an insane War Games match, Lee was a part of the NXT Men's Survivor Series team alongside Tommaso Ciampa, Damian Priest, Matt Riddle, and Walter. Just looking at the team alone, you assume the last man on the NXT team would have been Ciampa because he's pretty much like the heart and soul of the yellow brand. But Keith was the final man of this team, and like, if you notice who he's facing off against, who is the last man on Raw and last man on SmackDown. He's in the ring with some big names, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. After Rollins was eliminated, Keith and Roman actually put on like this little mini match, a little teaser of what we could possibly see in the future. There was even a moment where Lee looked like he was about to pin Roman after a tremendous spirit bomb, but Roman kicked out and, you know, he did what he had to do. Big dog stuff. Number 5, Keith Lee versus Jeff Cobb, Limitless Wrestling. The promotion's name says it the best. Happening in New England's Limitless Wrestling, these gargantuans put on a technical contest. Jeff Cobb is a former Olympian, but Keith Lee had Mewtwo on his tight, so that's already a big win, big fella. The opening part of the match was a I'm strong, no, I'm stronger, before turning into a hey, I can moonsault to no, I can moonsault. Like two 5-year-old brothers trying to pick the biggest booger out of their nose. This was actually one of my favorite matches of all time, and I highly recommend you go ahead and go check it out for yourself. Kind of like what I said when it came to War Machine. To put these two men back in the 80s, if they were wrestling back then, the money they would have drawn against each other. The best part is that Lee never really meets his match, so when it comes to someone that's just as athletic and about the same size that Cobb is, whoa, there's more of them. This is just one of those matches that you feel like would be on YouTube that would have like a couple million views. Like this only has about 50,000 thousand. I'm not even gonna tell you who wins it. I'm just gonna leave it down below and hopefully you just go ahead and watch it. It's really good, I swear. Number 4, Keith Lee versus Lio Rush, PWG Man on a Silver Mountain. You already know this one had to make the list. I mean, it's a Lio Rush match. Like if I don't put it up here, that's like justice not done. This is kind of like the Ricochet match, but just every better sense of the word. Like it was just the Ricochet match, but a lot better. Lio's easily one of the most underrated cruiserweight wrestlers of all time, and we've seen his personality with Lashley. The guy has a lot of fight in him, which was shown off perfectly against Keith Lee. Also, Keith was still rocking the Mewtwo, so you already know it was a banger. The Mewtwo, it was a banger. It's also weird to say that the biggest highlight of this match was probably when Lio Rush decided to purple nurple the hell out of Keith Lee, and I never thought I would talk about two grown men fighting in tights, where one of the biggest highlights of their match was a purple nurple. Lee did his typical frog splash from the second rope and his typical, you know, really crazy offense, but I'm gonna have to give this one to Lio being the VIP of this, the MVP of the match, because his no selling, which was so criticized by wrestling fans at one point, is what made the match so impactful. Because Leo's a small guy in comparison to Lee, who's like the size of my Jeep. Both of these men are walking highlight reels, and no one does highlight reels better in wrestling than PWG. I'm honestly surprised this didn't get a 5-star match, because it just should have. Like, it was just really good. This encounter will come back again once they're both in WWE on Leo's social media promos, and they would even tag together on NXT, and in my opinion, they really should have kept them as a tag team and really ran with that. Like, it really would have worked. Number 3, Keith Lee versus Tomohiro Ishii, Rev Pro / New Japan Global Wars 2017. When you're facing a guy called the Stone Pitbull, and somehow you come off as more intimidating, that means you're doing your job right. Lee needed that test against someone who's a true tough man in the game right now. In the UK, they got to see a slugfest. I mean, they were throwing hams. The amount of forearms, dog. Like, I mean, the forearms were mad in this match. Ishii pulled the curtain back a tad of being like the stiffest man in wrestling and let Lee no-sell a good amount of his offense, switching the idea that Ishii was the A side of the match. The commentator actually said it the best. Ishii isn't a small man. He just looks like a small man next to Keith Lee. Showing respect to the veteran and being the rookie in the match, Ishii was able to fire back and chop the tree down to size until the tree hit a textbook drop kick. Like, remember, this man ranges between 320 to 350 pounds, and he just did that. If I did a cartwheel, I would break my neck. What made this match perfect, in my opinion, was the crowd, because we're in the US. US crowds are really about the fast-paced style reversals and are really just loud in general. But Japanese crowds are a little more respectful until the ending sequence of the match. But UK, they're the perfect combination of the two. So for them to have this match in the UK and with that type of crowd, it seemed like a match that could have gone down in the Tokyo Dome or in MSG, and they would have had a perfect reaction. Thank you, UK, for being probably the best fans in professional wrestling. Number 2, Keith Lee versus Dominic Dijakovic. I'm calling him Dijak. NXT TakeOver Portland 2020. In front of a crowd at least, this was Lee's biggest ever singles match. NXT does a great job establishing the fact that these talents have a past, because to not acknowledge Lee versus Dijak from the indies in the WWE would be absolutely absurd. In the WWE, they've had 5 prior matches up to this one, and all of them have just been bangers, bro. Like, real talk, they've all just been bangers, brother. It would be damaging, and I would say ignorant as well, if this match between Keith Lee and Dijak does not go down at a WrestleMania. This is a WrestleMania match worthy of a main event. Dijak was throwing so many different big boots. He was going back with them freaking forearms, bro. I've never seen two trees do battle like this, and I would like to see it happen more often. Fight forever is the best tagline for this match. While it's hard to believe that Keith would have lost the North American title to Dijak, the idea that if anyone was going to, it really should have been him was very prevalent during this match. And while I couldn't believe he was really going to lose it, there was still that little bit of, but what if he does? The dive Dominik did outside the ring to Keith, he completely just blew skidoo from one area of the arena to the other. I have never seen such a large refrigerator stove man just fly as if he was Southwest. And when Dominik no-sold the Spirit Bomb, bro, I still feel like I'm watching the match right now. It is incredible. It is incredible. And why was it only given 4.25 stars? Dave Meltzer was good, bro. This should have gotten 5, but it's okay because number 1 did. Number 1, Keith Lee versus Donavon Dijak, PWG Battle Los Angeles 2017. Dave Meltzer gave this match, I know, an independent wrestling match, crazy, right? A 5-star quality match. Insane. The opening of this match really gave some big man Ray Phoenix versus Prince Puma vibes, and outside their personalities, this was their bread and butter, being the best big man in professional wrestling. Dijak's backwards dives over the top ropes gets me every single time, and Lee does his dive to his feet outside the ring, and I'm just trying to figure out what's for dinner tonight. What made this match the spectacle that it is, because personally I think their takeover match, in my opinion, was just better, was that it was the biggest stage at the time that either men have been on. Also given the fact it was the Battle of Los Angeles, probably one of the biggest wrestling tournaments in the world right now, kept everyone's attention as they feast their eyes on such an amazing performance between two incredible athletes. Dijak popped out of the Spirit Bomb like he did at TakeOver, and the crowd went electric. And Lee stood up from the pin while holding Dijak, and he ain't no Tiny Tim either. And I'm not gonna tell you who won, but these two are the modern day best big men in professional wrestling, Keith Lee especially. And I really hope one day this turns into a WrestleMania main event. But yeah, guys, that's the video. If you really enjoyed, in the comments down below, let me know your favorite Keith Lee match ever. Also, make sure to comment bask in his glory. That way you can get shouted out in the next video. But thank you for watching the video. If you really enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, share, and always subscribe. And we outie.
We going up like 1,000. I'ma flex just like a MuscleManMalcolm. We going up like 1,000. I'ma flex just like a MuscleManMalcolm. When it just like 1, 2, 3. If you like the channel, this will squeeze. If you like the channel, this will squeeze. If you like the channel, this will squeeze.